everyone. Today is day 4 of my practical poetics studying. It is quite early. It is 7:10 this morning, but as I mentioned yesterday, I will be heading down to the city today to get my brakes replaced. However, I did not end up reading Choi last night. Hobbs is going to make his grandiose appearance. Dude, can you move? Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and read the Choi collection this morning. 7:10. I need to leave my house by about 8:45 to get down to Oklahoma City in time. So I believe that I can finish this. And then I was going to read Lucille Clifton's what's called Good News About the Earth. But I think I'm going to substitute that out for a shorter poetry collection today called Red Channel and the Rupture. This is by Flora Thomas. She's also on my list this week. And then I'm hoping that them replacing my brakes, it's my rear brakes that need to be replaced. I'm hoping that doesn't take all day. I am gonna bring with me the Carson text. I know I said I was gonna skip it today, which I still might, or I might get anxious and read it. And then I'll also take the Hoagland text, which is just like that really, like he's fun to read. Just in case I am down there all day. Again, I hope I'm not. They are giving me a car while they have my car. So I will also be going to Costco because I need to stack up on a few things. And yeah. Before I forget, I wanted to give another shout out. So my second subscriber is my best friend Armin. He lives in Hawaii. I won't say where he lives. I'm like really excited about where he lives, and he's really excited where he lives, but he just moved from one island to another island. So something I did in June was I had been thinking about this AWP panel for like a few years, but I had never submitted it. And I got it together, and I got my panel together. So my panel, basically the panel is discussing interdisciplinary studies between poetry, mental health, botany, biology, and ecology. So it's an eco-critical panel. And I have this really like A-team panel put together where we have 3 poets, we have a mental health professional, which is my friend Armin, and then we have a biologist botanist, which is my friend Taylor. I mentioned her yesterday. And we find out in August whether or not our panel has been accepted by the conference, which if you're not a writer, I doubt that you would have heard of AWP, but AWP is a massive writers conference. Like I went to the AWP in Seattle in 2022, and I think there was like something like between 6,000 to 10,000 writers who showed up in Seattle for that conference. The one in Kansas City, Missouri had significantly less writers in it. But this next conference, I didn't go last year either. Last year was in LA. I don't know how many writers showed up. But LA is expensive. So I was like, my choices were like buy a new bed or go to AWP in Los Angeles. And I was like, I'm going to get a new bed. I like to sleep well. And this next year it's in Baltimore, and I've been to DC and I've been to the DC area, but I don't know if I've ever actually been to Baltimore. I don't remember. If I have, it's been probably almost 20 years. So I will be going to AWP regardless, but it would be way better if my panel got accepted for AWP and I was going to actually present. But yeah, so I wanted to give a shout out to my second subscriber, Armin. Woo! Thanks for following me. And then I also noticed I have 4 other subscribers. I don't know who you are. I didn't know YouTube did this, but if your profile is private, then you can't see who subscribes to you. So if you would like a shout out, then I would be happy to shout that out. Either way, I'm super excited to see you all here. As I mentioned in my second video, I didn't really think I'd get any subscribers from this, and that's not the point, but it is really cool to see that other people are also interested in like the material that I'm reading about and like maybe listening to that. If you guys want to do like a Q&A ever, or if you want to like type in the comments if you have questions about the readings, then I'll do my best to answer those. I am not saying that I am, you know, the all-knowing of this material. I'm not. I'm learning about it, right? Which is like, this is the idea. Well, I have this really phenomenal mentor at Oklahoma State. Her name is Lisa Hollenbach, Dr. Lisa Hollenbach. And she was the head of my committee for my literature exam. My literature exam focused on poetry read as literature from the 18th to the 21st century within the ecofeminist theoretical realm. So this is like, I've been reading about eco-criticism for a long time, actually. And so I do have some knowledge based in that area. And ecofeminism is really cool. So that's considered like fourth wave feminism, which comes after, like, I mean, it started in the 60s with third wave feminism, and then it kind of like petered off, and now we've been seeing like a big push towards ecofeminism. But so this exam focuses on eco-criticism and affect theory. So you see ecofeminism thread through this. Like, obviously, you can usually connect a theory anywhere if you know the theory well enough. I feel like I'm getting off on a tangent now. It's like, it's so early. I'm pretty energetic in the mornings. My mother and my grandmother would call that being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So I'm feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I'm excited. But all that to say, I really appreciate you all being here. It's really cool to see other people who are interested in this material. If you have questions about the material, you can pop them in the comments. If I can answer them, I will. Or if I can't answer them, I will try to find a theorist or a poet or a craft writer who can answer your questions. And trying to think if I've forgotten anything else. I don't think so. I have not yet done the research on whether or not pesticides and insecticides that Carson was talking about yesterday, or that I kind of talked about through the Carson work yesterday, are still currently in use. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. Like, whenever I push something back, it's because I'm a little nervous to find out the answer. I will do that eventually. And yeah, I guess let's get going. Let's finish off this Franny Choi text. So it is a little past 8:03, and I'm getting hungry and I need to eat before I go to Oklahoma City. So I paused my reading. I'm a little more than halfway through on the Choi collection. And so far, I mean, Choi is a phenomenal poet. How they navigate space within the line and the page and language and storytelling is really, I mean, it's heart-wrenching and also beautiful. So like, this book is really, investigating kind of like the speaker's experiences growing up as a Korean American female, and how like it pulls in historical context, and also places an emphasis on those who are affected by war, right? So not the governments, but the civilians, and like what the civilians have to do in order to survive the catastrophe that's brought on by war. Like there's a section in here where the title of multiple poems is let me find it. Upon learning that some Korean War refugees used partially detonated napalm canisters as cooking fuel. And so there's a lot of musings on how, like, kind of like this balance between death and life and what is like survival in a world that is pretty catastrophic. There is kind of there are musings over the COVID pandemic and the racial attacks that Asian people in America faced after COVID, or like during COVID, which she brings up those 3 Korean women who were all murdered by a white man during COVID. I'm sure you guys remember that, right? It was in the news. And then like she brings up the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and kind of troubles this question of like, what if all of those people like had the same skin color as like white people, you know? Would that have happened? Which, if you think about it, like Germany didn't get an atomic bomb dropped on them, right? But anyway, so it's a lot to think about, and I'm going to continue thinking about this. I'm going to go eat something. I will likely finish this down in Oklahoma City while I'm waiting for my car, after I've done my Costco run, and yeah, then I will come back to that later. Okay, I have returned from Oklahoma City. That took quite a while. It is 3 o'clock. I didn't get much reading done. I didn't get any reading done down there, actually, because I took my car in. They gave me a loaner car. I went to Costco. Then I came back. And then they told me, so I went to go get my rear brakes replaced. And they told me, they were like, also, your battery isn't passing the test. And I was like, I just bought this battery from you guys, like not even 2.5 years ago. And so they said they could give me a discount, but my car starts fine. So I was just like, I'm not going to spend the money on that. And hopefully the battery keeps going. And then I came home, which I will get on a slight tangent here before I move back into my reading, because I'm really excited about it. And it's like such a geeky thing. But I came back home, washed my car because I got roped into paying for a car wash here in Stillwater. And so I'm like, all right, because I'm paying for it, I should wash my car at least once a month. So I washed my car, and there's a game shop that's right next to the car wash. And I recently decided that I was going to start playing Magic the Gathering, because I'm not busy enough. So I want to add like one more thing. And so I went in and I just bought my first commander deck. I learned that the difference between a commander deck and like a starter kit is that the commander deck you play with 100 cards, and the other kit, like a regular deck, you play with 60 cards. But the people who play here, they play on Mondays and Tuesdays at like 6:30. They usually play commander decks. So I got my first commander deck, and I was looking through the cards, and it comes with the legendary creature, which this is just like It's not the actual card. The actual card is in there, but it's Cardor Doom Scourge, which I was like, okay. It's so nerdy, but I'm really excited about it because I have this really lovely memory, which if my friend, well, we used to be friends, now we're like distant acquaintances, maybe still friends, but if he ever watches one of these, his name is Soren, and I have this lovely memory in my undergrad of Soren teaching me how to play Magic, and we were drinking, we were actually pretty drunk, and he had been playing for like years at that point. He was really, really good. And he handed me a deck and I was like, okay. And he was teaching me how to play and I kept winning. And then he took the deck he gave me and gave me a different deck that was worse. And then I won that round too. This is how I remember it. So memory is subjective, right? But I just remember it was so funny. So Soren, if you ever watch these, you'll have to let me know if you remember that the same as I do, because I always thought that was a riot, and it was really fun. And this was like, oh my god, like 15 years ago or something like that. So anyways, I kind of want to I do want to get into Magic the Gathering. I've actually purchased, this is the third deck I've purchased. The first deck I purchased was the beautiful Final Fantasy VII Magic deck, which I will not open. I bought this because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and I have been. Like, I've been playing Final Fantasy VII since 1997 when it came out on the PlayStation 1. And I saw that they were coming out with this, and I was like, okay, I have to own that. And then I also got this, like, Foundations kit. So it's the beginner box, and Masa, she's one of my best friends here in Stillwater. I was thinking that you and I could learn how to play this. I think we'd have a great time. But this is like the beginner's kit for Magic, not the Commander's deck, so there's difference there. But I think that you and I could probably handle this because I am learning how to play. So Masa, if you want to play with me, let me know. And yeah, so anyways, that's enough of that. We will continue on with Franny Choi. The world keeps ending and the world goes on. And then we'll move into Red Channel and the Rupture, or I will read The Art of Voice. I'm not gonna do Carson today. Yeah, I don't know. I reached a certain point in the day where theory, like I said in like the first or second video, I like to read theory first thing in the morning so that my comprehension of what I'm reading is really sharp. As the day goes on, it's harder for me to digest. So yeah, so we're gonna continue on with poetry. I am not gonna get distracted with my new Magic deck. I'm gonna put it away so I do not get distracted. Because, you know, you get something fun and new and shiny, and yeah. That being said, so they play on Mondays and Tuesdays from like 6 or 6:30 on, and I'm usually in my gym class on Mondays and Tuesdays, and my rest day is Thursday. So that is, or my rest day is Wednesday. So that's something I have going for me today, is today's a Wednesday. I don't have to go to the gym today. But I could change my rest day to, say, Monday. But then I'd have to go like Tuesday through Friday, which doesn't sound fun. I like to take a break right in the middle. Anyways, comme ci, comme ça. Okay. I will get back to reading. Finished The World Keeps Ending and the World Goes On by Franny Choi. this was a great read. The rest of the book continues to interrogate. Like she really creates these microcosm worlds in multiple situations surrounding not only civil rights for Black and brown and Asian people in America, but also like the world within the body and how the body of the speaker kind of moves through different experiences and traumas throughout their life. It was a really phenomenal read. I found one poem in here that I would really like to bring into my exam. I mean, there's a lot of poems in here. Again, I dog-eared quite a few, and then I marked one that I really want to come back to. Choi also inspired, I wrote notes on 2 poems that I need to write for my dissertation. So while I'm doing all this reading, I'm also working on my dissertation because I decided in January that I actually had my dissertation finished. But I decided I didn't want to publish that one because it was all about my last long-term relationship, which was very toxic. And pretty traumatizing. And I was like, I don't want my first book to be about that guy. And so I decided to completely, like, write a new book entirely. And I've been working on that since really March. And I'm almost close to being done with it, actually. I had a lot of really good inspiration in March. I had a lot of really good inspiration. I won a fellowship to go study at a writer residency in Taos, New Mexico, and so I was there for 2 weeks in June, and I was super productive. And so I've probably written a dissertation for poetry needs to be a minimum of 50 pages, because you're like writing your first or like generally your first poetry collection. A lot of my colleagues have actually published like books before their dissertation. I was really privileged in the fact that the majority of the people who I entered this program with are very talented and very driven. A lot of really good poets, a lot of CNF writers, a lot of like really phenomenal fiction writers. And so, so anyways, I really love this book. It was really a pleasure to read. I hope one day I get to meet Franny Choi. That would be phenomenal. Really inspirational. There's some poems that she writes where the speaker is communicating to her great-great-grandmother or great-great-great-grandmother, and a lot of my dissertation actually communicates with my third great-grandmother from Austria. And so that's a really cool way to see like how she has done that, because she did it through letters, like epistolary letters. Well, I don't think that's the correct term, but she moves through the communication of an ancestor through letters, and that's how I actually, at the project that I did for Taos, I constructed a bunch of letters where the speaker was addressing their third great grandmother and like kind of giving that woman voice, which is, we can discuss that another time if any of you are interested about hearing my dissertation. So I finished that. I'm going to move on to Red Channel and the Rupture by Amber Flora Thomas. I'm not familiar with Thomas's work, which means that I am excited to dig in. I love reading poetry from new people. I actually don't know the background of Thomas either, so I like to do some research on authors, either before or after I finish their texts, and kind of like see where they're at and what they've been doing, and just kind of like get glean their biography. But this, like, her little blurbs on the back were from Camille Dungy and then Peggy Shoemaker, who are two other authors on my list, and I'll be reading them later. Actually, Camille Dungy, she wrote Trophic Cascade, which I read for my literature exam. And I have another one of her books. I think it's called Smith Blue. Yeah, I'm actually reading it this week, so I get to Smith Blue regardless. Okay, I'm going to move on to this. Red Channel and the Rupture by Flora Thomas. I did some research. So I loved the writing in this. I think that Thomas does a really good job of like taking a scene or something that we see just outside our window, outside of our car window, on the side of the road, in nature, and then she like kind of like boils it down to humanize it and also like embody that within the speaker, which is really interesting. And I've like again marked little poems that I want to come back to, and I've like dog-eared some. I also know that I'm getting close to like 30 minutes on this video, and I'm doing my best to keep these under 30 minutes because I don't want them to be too long. So it is 5:12, and so I'm going to log off here, and I'm going to read The Art of Voice, my section from that today, and then I should be done, I think, by about 6. And so, yeah, we'll do that. I didn't realize I would finish this book today, but I did. I finished The Art of Voice by Hoagland. The rest of the book, so I actually ran into another section that I thought would work really well when I get to my exam, because he talks about like what poetry can do and how poetry and the speaker within the poem affects the reader. It's just really interesting. So like, I'll read an excerpt. How about that? I am hesitant to read excerpts from any of these books because I'm nervous that I'm going to violate like copyright laws. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But so Hoagland says, the best word for this kind of poetry is dialectical because it implies that the poem has no predetermined position in relation to experience. This poem does not merely present the speaker's engagement with a meditative problem, it displays the speaker's entanglement in experience. It shows the illusory nature of the problem as well as its fatal, perhaps immutable substance. The freedom of the speaker is to dance with circumstances, trivial and profound. The liberal gift of the poem is to show the reader that such a dance is possible, that in fact we are attempting the dance every day. Experience is many great conversations happening at once. A good poem orchestrates such conversations in a way that makes graceful theater of them. The trashy and the precious, the shallows and the heights of human nature, the ugly and the beautiful inside the poem, they coexist. And I'm thinking about that as I'm thinking about the poems that I'm reading in terms of eco-poetics, how eco-poetry is holding the beautiful and the destructive in both hands on the page, right? and how that is necessary through like those speech registries that I talked about, I think yesterday, and utilizing that form of communication to show the readers, hopefully spanning beyond like poets, right? Like readers of everyday life, that the environment is in dire need, and that changes from humanity, the human species, really need to like become more established, and we need to do more work to preserve our world. But anyways, it was a great read. I'm reading Craft because it's kind of like a refresher. The Poetics exam is like digging into the poetics of, you know, the books that I'm reading, and I'm applying the theory in a form of like communication, how those poets are acting within the theory. And the Craft is there to just basically remind me, like, if you're, I mean, I've been writing poems since I was 8, so I'm very familiar with most of these, but like you lose language as you get older. I mean, if you don't say the same words every single day, right? You lose language, like just like learning a different language. And so these are really good refreshers to read. Highly recommend The Art of Voice. And yeah, I'm pleased that this is another book I've crossed off. I finished 3 books today, which is great. I'll finish the Carson tomorrow, and we'll move on with Clifton tomorrow, and maybe some Voight. I've got Ellen Bryant Voight coming up as well. And I will get into Dickinson. But thanks for being here with me today. Thanks for sitting through all of my tangents and my, I don't know, it's been great. That concludes day 4 of the Practical Poetics studying, and I hope you all have a great